did we learn?
Of course, today we learned about a multitude of concepts and occurrences in scenarios involving diffusion of responsibility, the bystander effect, of course, one of my favorites, developed in colonial times by George Washington.
So that's entirely false, and in normal people terms, we learned that when there is a single individual who can help, more often than not they will help, compared to in a group. That is because there is no diffusion of responsibility where somebody else says they'll take care of it. In this case, Willie was the only person around to help break up the fight. So he felt morally obligated to do so and realized that nobody else would be around to do it. Can you think of another example where that would be the case?
Of course, the example used by George Washington was the Civil War, wherein the bystander effect played a very large role in the battling of brother versus brother.
A good example of an instance where there is no diffusion of responsibility would be when you're driving down a rural road and you find a man stranded. More often than not, people will stop to help. However, if you're on a freeway and somebody is stranded, hardly anybody helps. This is because everybody assumes that somebody else will take care of it or that the matter is already resolved. But if you see somebody on a rural road who's stranded and you drive by them and nobody else comes to help them, they'll probably die.
Of course, an issue because it involves stoppage of the heart. If the heart stops, you die.
That is correct.
Of course.
In Alaska, if somebody's stranded, it is a crime to not pull over and help them because of the many rural roads. In many states, there are laws called Good Samaritan laws which protect those people helping others. Can you think of why this would be a good law to have?
It would be a good law to have because it would make us more like the kindred souls of Alaska with their igloos and their little cute Eskimo faces.
If you say so.
Yes.
Now that you've learned about the bystander effect, research has been shown that more people who understand the bystander effect are more often to help in situations where there is a diffusion of responsibility. So ask yourself, now that you have this information, will you be willing to help? Would you be willing to help?
As was documented in our informational film, I am absolutely willing to help.
Awful movie. Man,
wow.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible movie.
Don't
even behave like, oh,
don't.
that's not good.
Can we like do something?
I feel like
I do something. But what could
anyone,
what
someone should go first.
I don't.
No.
I know.
Yeah, it's just we're not. So yeah, I'll decide. Hear something? It's like a bird or something. It's kind of weird bird. No? I don't hear anything. Yeah. Nah, it's probably nothing. Don't worry about it. Alright.
We he could have totally avoided this. I feel kind of bad. I'm also thirsty. I'm really thirsty.
Yeah, okay, I was just thinking the same thing. Alright, I'm feeling good.
As you can see, diffusion of responsibility and the bystander effect plays a key role in individuals' safety. Oh, hello, sir. Any situations where the bystander effect was particularly tragic?
Well, of course I can. That was, of course, the famous incidents back in 1852 of Kitty Pryde, the character from X-Men, who was repeatedly stabbed outside her apartment. Well, several thousand people just watched and did nothing.
Almost. In New York, a woman was stabbed 3 times by this man while around 30 bystanders watched, assuming that somebody had already called the police, and nobody had. After, what would you say, William, was it around half an hour?
I would say it was more like 3 days
Oh,
for young Kitty Pryde.
well, around 20 minutes to a half an hour later, the police finally got a phone call long after she was dead. This was incredibly tragic because several individuals watched it occur and nobody stepped in to help. As it can be seen, correct? Am I correct so far?
Absolutely.
Well, it can be
Factual.
It can be seen that the bystander effect led to the death of Kitty.
Yes. Yes, it did. It was the death of her as Juliet was to Romeo.
Often, in a fight, the classic scene, fight, with a circle of people chanting. Wouldn't you say there's a strong bystander effect?
Absolutely. One key example of the bystander effect is the old Colosseum gladiator times, where thousands of people in the stands would watch men kill each other for their own entertainment. Had there only been one man in the stands, you can bet he would have stepped it in there. It would have happened.
Possibly. The bystander effect also creates a situation where an individual wants to help, but is afraid of public persecution or embarrassment due to the crowd. Can you think of a situation where this is true?
As a matter of fact, I can. It was merely a decade or month or something ago. There was a man pushed onto subway tracks, and because he was writhing and struggling like a fish thrust upon the land, millions of people merely stood by and watched.
That is almost correct. It wasn't millions of people, but some people did catch it on video. This man fell into subway tracks, and nobody would help him because they figured somebody else would do it or he was capable of doing it himself, and they didn't want to be embarrassed when they went up to help him. The man died. In other situations in everyday life, you may have noticed somebody floating face down in a pool and wondering, are they actually in trouble or are they just floating?
A problem frequently faced by the great superhero known as Aquaman. His army of fish.
Yes.